Hello, Marilee Norton with eXp Realty. I'm a licensed real estate agent and realtor in both Colorado and Arizona. And this is part two of Home Buying 101 for first-time buyers. So let's go back to where we left off. So we're going to be looking at, again, things that you need to consider in terms of out-of-pocket costs. We talked about the out-of-pocket costs here. These are things that you definitely want to make sure you know going forward. Things not to do when buying a home. Do not change jobs. It is really important that you stay in the same job while you are going through your purchase process. If you're planning on changing jobs and you're going to be in the same industry, wait until your job change has happened and you've been in your job for 3 months before you start actually looking for a home. The reason for this is that while changing jobs can affect your purchase, the ability for you to purchase a home, the ability for you to actually get a loan and close on the purchase of a home. If you're in the same industry, oftentimes the underwriter can say, yes, you've been in the same industry long enough, we'll be okay with that. If you are truly changing jobs, changing careers, and changing industries, you may have a bigger problem because the underwriters do want to see 2 years of work history in the same profession, preferably in the same job, in order to ensure that they know that you're stable enough to continue paying on a mortgage. All right, don't spend your down payment. If you've got some down payment money set aside, for God's sake, do not spend it, because if you spend it, you no longer have a down payment. It's kind of obvious. All right, don't buy a car or use your credit cards. If you absolutely must make a purchase and it cannot be a car, don't let it be furniture or anything major. You need to talk to your lender about that purchase before you make it, because they can discuss with you how you might be able to complete that purchase without affecting your ability to get your loan. If you decide that you must purchase furniture before you buy your home, even if you purchase that furniture on a program where you have no payments for the first 2 years, it will still affect your debt to income ratio, and it will possibly prevent you from being able to complete your loan, which means you wouldn't be able to complete your purchase. Large deposits or withdrawals from your savings or checking accounts. These will affect the amount of money that you have in your possession and can affect the ability for you to actually get a loan and close on your home purchase. Anything that goes into your checking account, and I have had this happen only once, but one of my clients actually had a death in the family and actually received, while we were under contract, an insurance benefit from the death of that family member. Talk to your lender if something like this happens to you. Let them know what's happening so that the underwriter knows how to proceed. If they can track the money, you may have to push your closing date back a little bit, but at least they'll be able to track the money and be able to show that you're not doing anything crazy. All right? Do not, under any condition, under any circumstances, change banks. If you're going to change your bank, it actually changes your credit history, and changing your credit history will affect your ability to be able to get the loan and close on your deal. And do not co-sign for anybody on any loan, and don't take out any loans. Don't take out any new credit. Don't sign for anybody. When you co-sign on a loan for someone else, or co-sign on a rental agreement, or co-sign on anything, you are not just saying, my friend or family member has the ability to make these payments. You're agreeing to take on the debt for them if they are not able to pay it. That includes if they croak. That includes if they lose their job. If they have to move, you may actually be on the hook for their loan. So don't do any of that sort of thing. Now, I am going to real quickly switch over to the full screen here. Earnest money, inspection, and appraisal. Earnest money is the amount that you put forth to go under contract on a property. This is what puts you in escrow on a property. Usually plan on 1 to 2% of the purchase price or the list price of that home. For inspections and appraisal, plan anywhere from $700 to $1,100 for these items. The down payment is the amount that you put towards the purchase of the home above and beyond the loan. So like I said, the loan is going to be based on the appraisal amount. So if your home appraises for $300,000, you have offered $305,000, your deposit will be the difference between the loan plus the $5,000 over the appraisal. So any difference between the amount of the loan to the purchase price of the home is your down payment. Closing costs. Typically, this is the amount for you to close your loan and the amount for you to close the transaction. Plan on 1 to 2% of the purchase price again for your closing costs. Moving on, we're going to go to the next slide. So we're looking at what does a realtor do? This goes back to that question of what does a realtor do and do I really need you? In some states, you may not need a realtor at all. You can actually close your transaction as an unrepresented buyer. If you choose to do that, I will warn you right now that you need to be very careful about how you proceed in each piece of your transaction. Typically, the seller's agent, because you are unrepresented, cannot answer your questions and cannot help you. In fact, it would be illegal for them to do so in many cases because they already have representation of the seller, which means they must represent the interests and best being of their client. That means they're negotiating only for the seller. And you could be taken advantage of as an unrepresented buyer. I highly recommend, especially for first-time buyers, that you consider getting yourself a realtor, someone who can actually represent your interests and negotiate on your behalf, someone who understands what your outs are and how to negotiate around them. In the state of Colorado, for instance, there are 8 points in a transaction, which usually takes about 4 weeks to complete, where the buyer can back out and still get their earnest money back. So if you are looking for someone to represent your interests and make it possible for you to keep going forward without having to back out of a deal, you need a realtor. If you are in a transaction and you suddenly realize that this transaction may not be the best option for you, you need to know if this is a point at which you can back out and not lose your earnest money. Keep in mind, you're going to have somewhere between $1,000 and $4,000 tied up in this before you even have the contract. So you need to make sure that you really know what you're doing. As a first-time buyer, do you need a realtor? No. My professional opinion, I highly recommend that you have one. All right, how does your realtor get paid? Your buyer's agent, depending on where you are, is likely going to be paid that co-op fee from the seller. So what happens is when a realtor takes a listing with the seller, they charge the seller a fee for marketing the home. A portion of that fee is set aside to go towards the buyer's agent for bringing the buyer. Now, there are lots of discount agencies out there. I'm sure you've seen them advertised on television and when you're streaming and that sort of thing, where someone will say, oh yeah, we'll list your house and sell it for you for $1,000. That's great for the seller. Fantastic. They only have to pay $1,000. They don't have to worry about anything else. For you as the buyer, that may mean that you're on the hook to pay your entire fee to your agent. So talk with your agent. Don't be shy about this. This is part of what we call your due diligence. Make sure you know what your agent's fee actually is. Make sure that you know when you make the offer on your home if the seller is actually offering a co-op, because it will lower the cost to you. They may be willing to pay the entire fee. So this is definitely a conversation to have with your buyer's agent. All right? So all of those things are really important. I want to real quickly just go back and make sure that we touched on everything. So the first step in buying the home, of course, is what you're doing right now. You're getting the information that you need. How long does it take? If you're a cash buyer, you can do it in 3 to 10 days. If you are looking at a loan, you are going to need a minimum of 30 days typically. All right. Is every home overpriced? The answer is no. It is simply priced. Let's talk about it when we get to that point in our negotiations, right? Can you buy a home without any out-of-pocket costs, regardless of the gimmicky infomercials that you see? No, you're not going to be able to purchase a home with absolutely no money out of your pocket. If you manage to do it, please let me know, because I've never seen anyone do it, never heard of anybody actually doing it. All right, is there a deposit? Yes, there is. Quiz question, what's that money called? That's right, it is your earnest money. All right, how much does a realtor cost? It depends on what you've negotiated with your realtor as far as his fee or her fee will be, and whether or not the seller is offering a co-op fee to help pay those costs. Cash money in the mattress. Remember, you got to keep that money in the bank. If you've got money in your mattress, first of all, it's not getting any interest, so it's useless to you. Secondly, you're going to have a real hard time actually spending it because your lender's going to need to see that you're not just laundering somebody's money for them. All right? What does a real estate agent do for me, and do I really need you? We're going to negotiate all of those costs for you. We're going to negotiate all of your inspection issues for you. We're going to be there for your appraisal and renegotiate the price if we need to do that. We are going to manage and coordinate the many people who touch your transaction. There's you, there's me, there's the seller, there's the seller's agent, there's your lender, there's the title company, there's the county for taxes, there's the appraiser, there's the inspector, the home inspector. There may be a roof inspection. You may have to have a radon inspection. All kinds of things happen behind the scenes. You will be made aware of them by a great agent, and you will have a lot of control in the process. But you're going to need guidance in order to exercise that control, and that's really what we're there to help you do. All right. The difference between a real estate agent and a realtor. Remember that a realtor is going to have that added responsibility of ethical behavior. A realtor absolutely must adhere to the National Association of Realtors ethical standards. All right? No perfect house. Remember, as you go through this process, it's going to be a process. Look for the house that's right, because there really is no such thing as a perfect house, okay? And as a first-time buyer, remember, you probably want to avoid true fixer-uppers. A fixer-upper on a first-time buyer's budget is something that needs cosmetic love only. We're looking at carpets, we're looking at tile, we're looking at countertops and paint. We are not talking about roofs. You do not need to be replacing a roof on your first-time purchase, all right? Make sure you're pointed in the right direction. Make sure that you don't forget your wallet. Pick great shopping partners, people that you trust and believe in. Remember, this is a 10-step process, and it is a process. I can't stress that enough. Supply and demand really do affect pricing in any market. Remember that you are going to have out-of-pocket costs, and you've got 10 big no-nos. Don't do those things, all right? Once again, do you need to have a realtor? Maybe not. Highly recommend it. All right, that's it for the second half of this presentation. What questions have you got? Go ahead and leave me a line. You can email me directly right here, or you can call me on my 800 number. My extension is 101, and I'll be happy to answer questions for you. If I am not in your state, I will direct you to a realtor who can answer the questions for your specific state. Again, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit more about the process. Again, if you have questions, please call me or email me. If you'd like to get started with your home purchase process in either Colorado or Arizona, let me know. I'll be there for you. Have a wonderful, wonderful 2020.